Good morning, First Baptist. Good to be coming to you live with another devotional on the Psalms. We're going to be looking at Psalm 15 this morning, and very excited to be looking at this psalm with you. It's another Psalm of David, and I told this story it's been a while. It was during one of my sermons, and we were driving. Oh, it was right before Christmas. And we were driving to, I think it was Clinton, to pick up a gift for Felicity. We found a little mini piano on Facebook Marketplace, and along the way, my engine light started flashing in the van we were driving, and it was our car engine was misfiring. And the engine light was flashing, telling me, something was going on, that I needed to pay attention to what was happening in the engine. And I think this psalm can serve as a bit of an engine light for us, a flashing engine light, as we can read it and check and see how we're doing in certain areas. And then in the end of it, not look to ourselves, but look up and look to Christ to deliver us. Look to God to bring our salvation, to be our holiness for us. So Psalm 15 is what we're going to look at. Verse 1 says, O Lord, who shall sojourn in your tent? Who shall dwell on your holy hill? These two terms, these two places are very important and significant when it comes to Old Testament theology. Your tent would, of course, be the tabernacle that would, inside the middle of it, would contain the Holy of Holies, where no one was allowed to go except for the high priest one day a year. So, and then the second, of course, would be the Holy Hill, would be Mount Sinai, where the law was given. And these two places are described in the Pentateuch as places that are brooding and overflowing with the holiness of God. And also, as they overflow with the holiness of God, they overflow with danger to mankind. Anyone who touches this mountain will die. If the priest goes into the Holy of Holies unfit, he will die. If anybody who is not the high priest goes in, they will die. So there's this overwhelming holiness and fire of the Lord. Then there's also this danger. And the reason why it's dangerous for mankind to enter into the presence of the holiness of God is because they are not like the holiness of God anymore. Because of the sin, because of the fall, mankind has become unlike God in that way, and therefore they are unfit to enter into those places without provision. So the psalmist, David, is asking an interesting question, right? O Lord, who shall sojourn in your tent? Who will dwell on your holy hill? Who will be in the holiness? Who will dwell in the holiness of God? Who will be with God? And then he answers it with the rest of the verses 2 through 5. He answers it, and the end of verse 5, there's another phrase. But verse 2: He who walks blamelessly and does what is right. I'm just going to read the whole thing, and then we'll come back and make comments on each verse. He who walks blamelessly and does what is right and speaks truth in his heart, who does not slander with his tongue and does no evil to his neighbor, nor takes up a reproach against a friend, in whose eyes a vile person is despised, but who honors those who fear the Lord, who swears to his own hurt and does not change, who does not put out his money at interest and does not take a bribe against the innocent. He who does these things shall never be moved. So, who dwells in the tent of the Lord? Who will dwell on the holy hill of the Lord? All of these things and more amount to someone who is like Yahweh, someone who is holy like Yahweh, someone who is righteous like Yahweh, right? He who walks blamelessly. Yahweh has never sinned, never done anything wrong. Christ has never sinned, done anything wrong, and does what is right. Everything he does is righteous, speaks truth, he never lies, does not slander with his tongue, takes no evil to his neighbor, or takes up a reproach against his friend. The opposite of that, of course, would be love, those who love each other. We know that God is love, in whose eyes a vile person is despised, but who honors those who fear the Lord. What does that sound like? You have to dust off your Genesis a little bit. Whose eyes a vile person is despised, right? but who honors those who fear the Lord. This kind of sounds a little bit like blessing and cursing, right? Bless those who those who bless Abraham will be blessed, and those who curse Abraham will be cursed. Who swears to his own herd and does not change. This is a phrase that is a bit interesting, something we have to think through a little bit. Swears to his own herd and does not change. Basically what that is someone, when they take out an oath and there's a negative thing that will happen to somebody if the oath is not fulfilled, that person takes out the pain upon themselves. So they say, if I don't keep this oath, then you can do this bad thing to me and not to like somebody else. And then does not change actually fulfills the oath. And of course, this is referring back to the Abrahamic covenant, right? God took out a covenant with Abraham, and he passed through the fire, saying, if this does not happen, then bad things shall happen to me. And of course, God does not change and keeps his oath. Who does not put out his money at interest and does not take up a bribe against the innocent. The first one is just speaking of the amazing generosity of the Lord in all things. And the second one is how he is upright and does not seek to benefit against the innocent. So all of these things are majorly reflective in the law of God because they are absolutely reflective of the character of God. These things are describing the holiness of God. And the one who will dwell with the Lord will be like the Lord. So if you want to dwell in the tent of the Lord, if you want to dwell on the holy hill of the Lord, you have to become like the Lord. You have to become holy like the Lord. He who does these things shall never be moved. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that this psalm can fashion or act as a bit of a warning light, a check engine warning light for us to check ourselves. And I was a bit, I don't want to say deceptive, but maybe a bit nuanced in saying that. I don't want you to check yourself and see if you're doing these things, right? Because I'm going to, spoiler alert, you can't do these things, right? And you certainly can't do them perfectly. So what are we supposed to check ourselves on? We're supposed to check ourselves to see if we are seeing our weaknesses, and if that sight, that recognition of our inability to be like Yahweh in order that we might enter into his holiness is going to drive us to call out to him and call out to him for salvation. And that is what we need to check ourselves on. Are we trying to keep these things on our own, or are we saying, I can't do it, and we are calling out to Yahweh for deliverance? Of course, these Psalms, David likely did not write these things in order, but they were certainly arranged in order. And the beginning of Psalm 16 is so perfect for the ending of Psalm 15. Preserve me, O God, for in you I take refuge. I say to the Lord, you are my Lord, I have no good apart from you. So when you read Psalm 15, you should not come away thinking, okay, I need to do these things. You should not come away with resolve. You should come away with declaring your inability and calling out to God to preserve you. That is, I think, the exact key that David wants us to take away from this Psalm 15. And the question is then what are we calling out to God? How, in what vehicle or fashion are we calling out to God for salvation? Well, there was someone else who was like Yahweh and who kept these things perfectly. And it's through a relationship with him that we might also become like Yahweh. And if we read the Gospels, we know that Christ did these things perfectly, right? Christ did these things absolutely perfectly. And it's through a relationship with him and through faith that God will take the righteousness that Christ achieved and accomplished in his life on the earth, and he will take that righteousness and he'll put it on us. And he'll take our sins and he'll attach them to Christ. And Christ then would die for those sins. So it's when we read these things, we should think about how holy Yahweh is. Then we should think about how holy Christ is. And then we should be thankful that by means of faith, we can enter into that holiness by means of having a relationship with Jesus Christ. So this psalm should not drive you to try harder. This psalm should drive you to seek out preservation and salvation from God through a relationship with Jesus Christ. And we're going to look at that relationship a little bit more in Psalm 16. Very excited to look at that psalm. We already have looked at it. Oh man, I can't even remember. It's been a while. It was during the quarantine we've looked at this. I think I did a sermon on this psalm, or maybe I did a devotional. I can't remember. But we're going to look at it again, and it'll be a good time to look at it again, especially following the context of Psalm 15. So, don't try harder. Seek out the Lord and seek to receive grace and salvation from Him. And in doing so, you will receive it. And by that grace, you will enter into the holiness of Yahweh, one step at a time, right? We're all being changed slowly, one step at a time. That's all I have for Psalm 15. I almost forgot. There's a song, it's slowly becoming one of my favorite songs. And it's by a musician called Andrew. His name's Andrew Peterson, of course. And I'm going to post it in the comments. But it's very, very, I think he pulled a lot of the lyrics. It's actually written by one of his friends named Ben. And I think he pulled a lot of the lyrics from Psalm 15. And it has a lot of the themes that we talked about this morning. So I'm going to post that in the comments. You guys can check that out. And I'm going to be going live with you guys again tomorrow for Psalm 15 or 16. And then Pastor Ben will be taking Wednesday. And then Pastor Lovelady will be going Thursday. And then I'll be with you again Friday. And Pastor Ben, I think, just sent out an email, just kind of giving an update on the church, so you guys can check that out. But we're missing all of you. We're very, very much looking forward to meeting again very soon. I was talking to Pastor Ben in the parking lot after we live streamed the service yesterday. I just said, man, I just really cannot wait until we are all back together in the house of the Lord again. So very excited for that, and very excited to see you all again very soon. And we'll look forward to continuing doing these devotionals and connecting with you guys on Sunday. But hope you guys have a good week and a good rest of the day, and we'll see you tomorrow.